Okay, so you've got your sky in, and I'm in the mountains, so I am going to stay in the mountains. So I'm going to go ahead now and wet the rest of my paper. Now, you're going to see some blooming happen there where I put this water because the water is going to go into the wet. But since I'm going to paint on it for right now, I'm going to do it quickly. It's not going to make that big of a difference for me. Again, I'm not wetting my brush. I am simply going back into the paint. I'll show you what I'm talking about. A big puddle of paint that I've got here. Simply going back into this paint and mixing into the same blue and gray that I had before. Okay, so that's what I'm working in. I'm not adding any more. I haven't washed my brush out yet. Not even since I paused things and came back to this. Okay. So I'm mixing me up a blue to approximate the blue I'm seeing, the blue-gray, greeny, whatever I'm seeing out there. And I'm going to come right over top of my sky into this wet that I put down with my flat brush. And I'm going to put in some mountains. And there'll be some overlaps and there'll be some lights and darks because the sun is shining out there a little bit. And I want this to be, I'm using my flat brush, and you can see I've turned it, and I try to keep the brush down and not do stroke, 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 but rather really let the brush allow the paint to go out there on that paper. If I stroke and make a lot of brush strokes, you're going to see them. I don't want you to see them. I want you to see what I'm trying to show you, the story I'm trying to tell you. In our mountains, the way the clouds work, sometimes areas that are even in the distance will light up more than others. Now, rule of thumb would be that as things get closer to me, they're going to become darker and more distinct. Things in the distance will be lighter and less in focus. Okay, so now I've got this section down. And I'm kind of digging my mountains and what they're doing while I'm here. I'm going to carefully outline a little bit. And let's say I do want to lift. Let's say I want to take some paint off right now. How could I do that? Well, I would wash my brush, but I'm not going to wash this brush because it's so full of wonderful paint. I'm going to leave it alone. So I'm going to take this brush and clean it out and dry it off. And I'm going to come and go, okay, where do I think there's some light should be? So I'm going to come here and I'm going to lift. Dry the brush off again. Take that paint off of there. And I'm going to lift. I'm trying to create a shape with that lift. See, I'm not taking the brush off the paper. I'm just letting it glide along. And here. Here. So now I've got some mountains with some sunlight, or at least light, hitting the sides of them. Let's pull it here. So this becomes sort of a light shape in the middle of all this sea of wonderful mountain waves. Okay? I'm going to stop it here. You go ahead and get that done, and then come back.